Welcome to the Front Row Back Row podcast presented by Physiogrowth. We're your hosts, Brian, who scaled a PT practice from the trunk of his car to 6 locations, and Owen, who helped lead an 8-figure exit and now runs a cash-based PT practice. This show is real conversations from owners actively building with what's working right now. All right, today we are going to be talking about pricing, and not just pricing, should you be this much in this market and all that, but mostly about comparing yourself, right? There's very few vanity metrics in physical therapy, right? Sometimes it's how your social media followers, YouTube follow, whatever. But a lot of times it actually comes down to price. I mean, how many times have you been at a bar, especially if maybe you haven't made the jump to ownership yet and you hear, "Oh my God, can you believe that guy's charging 250 an hour or they're charging 350 or 175 or whatever," right? And it becomes this sort of like mark of comparison. And I know a lot of common business teaching out there, especially service-based industries, is they say, well, one of the best ways for you to know if something's good is if it costs a lot of money. It's not foolproof, but at the same time, if somebody's able to charge it, then they must have the demand, right? So today we want to just talk about setting your price and figuring out, should I stick to it? Should I raise it? What are some key indicators that you want to look for? And then other things, just kind of handling that mental side of what are you doing? So this came up because I was in a meeting and I met a few people that were not only physical therapists, occupational therapists, but also personal trainers, people who didn't have that bar for a degree in healthcare. And God, some of them were charging more than me. And thankfully, I got to know some of these people and understand why they were doing that. But it was something that I brought up to Brian, and Brian's like, okay, like we could talk about this because there's about 18 different angles on how
For
you set
sure.
your price.
For sure. I just think that for me, one of the things that you said, which is kind of like a disclaimer for most people, is I feel like a lot of people say, well, so and so is charging that, so I should charge that. And that to me is like, yeah, you look at your competitors to agree just to make sure you're either not an egregious and overcharging or that you're not undercharging. And I mean, Owen, like in terms of insurance, different things, like I've sold packages and collected thousands of dollars from people. I've also like done things for free. So there's a lot of things in between that I think matter. Um, Obviously, it matters that you're not on the extremes of the spectrum on a regular basis. So yeah, I mean, I think the first thing that I would say PSA announcement was Owen kind of said, "Hey, there's this guy that's a personal trainer, and he charges 250 for the first session, then 200 for follow-ups." And it's like, well, hold on. Let's talk about what are the pros and cons for that guy and what you should do and where you are and because for sure, like, could you charge more? Absolutely. But I think of this as a true bell curve. Like the more you charge, the more people you're going to eliminate. So the more you got to make sure that you're offering more value, but you also have to make sure that you understand where your business is going and where you want to take it.
Well, and this is why I brought that particular example up because immediately it punched me in the face, right? Like,
Hmm.
he didn't get a doctorate, right? How the hell is he charging more than me? So, I'm charging 175, 200 if there's distance. Now, I probably will be raising my rates now that my volume's up, but that leads into the point of once I started talking with him, he's worked at some of the highest end gyms in the city for the last 12 or 13 years, right? He had some financial independence because he was in a bit, he got equity out of a company that sold, right? So, he had all these things that, if I could switch those levers, right, and have it be, okay, I had people paying cash service because keep in mind, I had 13 years of somebody only using insurance. So
Hmm.
they're almost like a wash. Like I haven't gotten very many
Yeah.
of my old insurance patients at all in my
Yeah.
last 2 years, whereas he was charging cash for 15 years, right? So people were used to handing him cash for his services.
Exactly.
And then the second thing is that, financial situation, right? I have said on this podcast many times, I was doing the Netflix model to start because I couldn't turn anyone away, right? We
Exactly.
had an air conditioner, we had kids in preschool, we just bought a house, like all that stuff, right? So I was at 150 and it was damn near embarrassing because there were people who I hired as new grads and they were charging like 300, right? So that was the big first impression, first thing I got once talking to this guy is a lot of the pricing comes down to what's your situation coming into that.
Yeah. Well, and for sure. And I think also, by the way, just because I know egos in general, there are
Mhm.
tons of fucking ego people out there that are like, I'm charging 250 for this and 200. But meanwhile, like you find out later, well, that person's been with me for a long
Ah,
time, so I'm charging them 150 and
uh-huh.
they've been there. So that's also,
Yep.
but by the way, again, another reason for why you got to be careful about listening to other people because other people are full of shit, right? That's the
Mhm.
reality of it, right? And Owen knows, like, for me, honestly, like, I say this all the time. It depends on what you want to do with your business. If it were me and I had to start over again and say I started in cash or insurance, I probably would start in insurance. But say just because I know the scaling ability, I would want multiple employees. But even say like I didn't want any employees. If I didn't, then I would probably either go cash based. I don't really know what I would do, but I'd probably go cash based just because I could manipulate my prices. And from that perspective, then if it was just me alone, um, I would start at 40-minute sessions. I think one mistake that I made, and I would get a location because one thing that a mistake I made was like you get to see your therapist for one-on-one for an hour. Guys, I got news for you. Like for me, I don't need to see patients for an hour to get them better. 40 minutes is a beautiful model. I recognize like it's very succinct, it's very easy, it's simple. I get great patients, and here's the kicker: you can kind of lower your rates. So like in that sense, like say I charge 150 and Owen's charging 175, right? I got news for you. I'm charging more than Owen. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Does everybody see that
Yeah,
math?
40 minutes versus one
And,
hour, yeah.
and for those of you whose brain's broken on that for a second or in the car and are like, what did you say? Let me break it down for you. I am seeing them for 66% of the time that Owen's seeing them. So if I'm seeing him for 150 times 0.33, now add another 50 bucks, I'm charging 200 bucks an hour. So at the end of the day, I would go to the 40-minute session and just charge less to create more accessibility and be like, "Oh, how much of the session? Oh, it's 150. Really? It's only 150? Yeah, you get me one-on-one for 40 minutes and you come to my office and it's that." And then if someone wants to have me at their house, someone wants to have me at their house, I would literally think, "All right, half hour there to get there. I would probably do 40 minutes at their house." And then I would probably get the hell out of there for 30 minutes and say I wanted, and honestly, like an in-home, generally speaking, I think you should have a minimum amount of time as well. So say someone's like, I want you there for an hour in my home. All right, cool. Then I'm going to work backwards from there. So I'm going to go 200 for the hour, plus I'm going to bang you for commuting, which is probably going to be another hour. And I'm probably going 400. So I'm probably saying, hey, $400 for me to come. And Owen knows I have charged people that before.
Yep.
So when I do that, I'll go to your house. I'll treat you for the $400 for that hour. And then what I'll do is like when you come to my office, it's 150 for 40 minutes.
Well, but let's break that down, right?
Yes.
So the place that you come from is I have a full clinic of people with 40-minute sessions. So to get me away from those people, you need to pay this,
Yeah.
right? And I think that's the thing that you'll business owners will go two different ways, right? They'll say, look, if you don't price yourself at that, no one's gonna respect you for that number. Even if you're not busy, you should be charging 250, 300, whatever it is for a home visit. Let's say it's a mobile home visit where you put in all that stuff, right? But then the other side of that is, okay, that's great, but like you may have very minimal growth doing that. And at that price point, you have to break into harder and harder circles. It's much harder to be known in a country club than it is to be known at your local community center,
For
right?
sure.
So that person may be charging 350, but that person may have like an empty schedule for 4 years, right?
Yeah.
Whereas if you decide to go lower, and this is the one I decided to go lower, build word of mouth. Eventually, people are going to pay 175 or 400. They're not going to tell you, no, I'm going to give you 400. They'll be like, cool, what's your price? Great, fine. Now, I bet probably three-quarters of my patients right now, if I asked them, could you pay more? They'll be like, well, yeah, I could absolutely pay more.
Totally.
But word of mouth and people who can pay 175, I guarantee you they know somebody who can pay 250, right?
Yeah.
So that's the thing. And then I look at it and say, I'd rather go 3 years and be busting at the seams, have a great word of mouth and a local reputation, and then all of a sudden it becomes real freaking easy to raise prices. It
Yeah.
becomes raise prices, lose 10%, gain 10% in like 6 months. Raise prices again, and then you just do that. So I think long term, I like the starting lower and then building once you're busy. But I can kind of see how people would want to reverse engineer that a little bit. I don't think it's for me. I think it's kind of a risky play. But that's just me.
Well, the other aspect becomes what do you want to do with your business, right? The other aspect
Mhm.
becomes do you want to scale it past you? right? So for those people that are like, oh, we're a cash-based clinic or we're an insurance-based clinic, like the insurance-based stuff is a lot easier to scale because I can hand stuff off to other people. Like for instance, right now we have lots of patients in our clinics that are being treated by the therapists. So the game becomes get more patients, but also get more therapists to fulfill for that those patients coming through the door. So I think that people who are in the jumping into the cash base and then cash is king and this is amazing. I mean, sort of. I think that the reality is that there's a different model around it. And I think that if you build like for instance, that personal trainer that you're talking about, right? So they're
Hmm.
charging that amount of money. If I went and I said, hey, I'm going to work with that person, could he very easily be like, you're going to work with Brian now. He's going to be great. And I'm a personal trainer and I go in there. Guess what? If I'm not nearly as good, now that person's wasting money on me because they're
Hmm.
paying me a salary and that person doesn't want to pay for me. They want to pay for that person. So that when you every time you raise your prices, just realize it makes it harder and harder for you to step away from the business. And when I say step away, I don't think any business is, at least in our profession, you can fully step away. I think that's also like a farce that's been pushed on social media. I've heard Gary Vaynerchuk tell people that like passive income doesn't fucking exist, so stop saying that,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
Which I love. And to me, when I look at like quote unquote, anytime I've been passive, generally speaking, things aren't going well. Doesn't mean that I can't go on vacation. Doesn't mean that I can't like leave the clinic. Doesn't mean I have to be there, 24/7. That's not what I'm saying. However, being involved and having a pulse on what's going on is also super important, in my opinion.
Yep.
If you stray too far away and you raise your prices and then you step away, it's going to be a lot easier to topple. That's just my
Yeah.
take on that.
Well, and think about life situation too, right? You just said, if it's high price, you're a premium. Brian Wolf is the premium.
Yeah.
You have to be able to hire somebody. And then, oh, by the way, if you have a cash business and you hire somebody that's as good as Brian Wolf, that's great for you for about 6 months. And then that person realizes, wait a second, I can charge that much too because Brian isn't even here when I treat these people, right?
Yeah, there you go.
So, and again, anybody who runs a cash pay practice knows this, right?
Yeah.
I think the other side of that too is also understanding what the financial situation is for the person, right? So I'm thinking about, two different case studies, right? You have a young person who maybe is married to like an engineer at Google, right?
Yeah.
And their dad had money and they have no loans, right? I mean, if that person just wants a lifestyle cash flow business as a PT, I would charge $400 right away. And I would just spend 5 years trying to get to the point that I could fill myself up with that. And remember, 400, you don't need to fill yourself up that much
Yeah.
to be making upper class money, right?
There's a person I know who does this, and like they flaunt online all this stuff. This is
And
why.
then
This is
do
why.
they tell you about daddy's money on social
Yeah.
media?
This is why.
Absolutely
This
not.
is why. Like it drives me bananas. But there's one person who like, and I'm not gonna blow them up by
Yeah.
name, but there's one person
Well, we've all
that
seen it.
we know that I know that like does this, and like I know your husband's in finance. Like you know what I mean? Like it's like one of those
Yeah.
scenarios where it's like I see you treating the same people
Yeah.
over and over again. I
Oh,
don't
and
know
they
what
take
you're
like the
charging.
video of them having a
Yeah, look at
coffee
my
and they're on
day. I'm
their
traveling. Yeah, it's
their
all bullshit.
MacBook, yeah, and all
Exactly. The
that
reality of
bullshit.
the situation is like yeah, like there's an aspect of, hey, you want to have a career in this. Like there's a lot of ways to do it. Like
Hmm.
yeah, I would argue that there's a bunch of physical therapists that work for us that probably make more money, right, than that
Yeah.
person. But they'll be like, my lifestyle, it's amazing. It's like I get it. You're a step away from like not working. That's cool. But it's one of those
Yeah.
scenarios where it's like it's the I think the crux of this thing we're getting at here is just don't think of social media and like look at what I'm doing and look what this is person. This is the stuff that drives me crazy because it's gaslighting you up to think like I should do this too. And the reality is if something makes you happy that you're doing and you're excited about it, show up to work every day, that's what you should base your stuff off of. So in this
Hmm.
scenario, if I wanted to have multiple physical therapists, I would try and keep my rates actually somewhat low and try and scale it for volume. If I said, you know what, I want to manage a single person, we know people like this too, we've worked with, who said we don't want to manage anybody. Cool, then just be
Yeah.
the man and just raise it up
Well,
and just
and
raise the prices
seasons
over time.
seasons of life too. Before I had kids, I loved managing people. That's
Yeah,
all I did. We grew that company. I had 6 clinics, 40 PTs under me, like hired 100 people, all that stuff. I have 2 kids now.
yeah, yeah,
I'm managing 2 people at this point.
yes,
So it's like, well, okay, I could pull the trigger and go insurance right now, or I can just chill for 5 years,
Yeah.
and then when they don't want to talk with me, then it becomes, well, I'm changing my prices. Well, what are you doing? I'm taking insurance. Fantastic. So yeah, just to put a bow on it, don't compare yourself side to side, I think is your phrase,
For
right?
sure.
And
The
just
grass
say,
is not
okay,
always
if it works
greener.
for me,
The
yeah.
grass is not always greener. I'm a big believer in that. Like just like I think in this world right now, it's so easy to try and keep up with the Joneses, and the reality is like what happens. I've seen it. I've watched it. There's people that get in, they keep up with the Joneses, and what happens is they're unhappy with the situation they've put themselves in, and it's like that's
Hmm.
not what you want. Whereas like again, there's people that can do really really well for themselves doing other things, and like that gives them happiness. So yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's the aspect of it. And so if you want to
Yeah.
learn what your happiness is, talk to us at Physio Growth. Would love to help
Yes,
with
we are the sensei on the hill, and we will
yes,
guide you to enlightenment. We won't promise that, but we will absolutely promise to help you break down your business and make sure that you make more money and have more fun doing it.
exactly, exactly, exactly.
I can just see you like bald on a hill, like in like a Buddhist temple or something.
Yep, yeah,
I think
exactly,
you could do
exactly.
it.
Look at here we
I think you
are.
could do it.
Here we are.
Yeah, right.
Ju-
The least Zen person I know. I don't think. Have you ever been to a yoga class before?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh, that's
Kelly's
right. Yeah,
yoga
your
certified.
wife does
Yeah,
yoga.
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
I
okay,
have to
maybe
go to
I'm the
yoga.
least. Maybe I'm the least
Yoga,
Zen person.
yoga. Honestly, sound bath meditation is delightful. I don't know about an hour of it laying on my back and
Sound
me
bath.
waking up, but it's very fun. Oh, I've done
Sound
meditation.
bath.
Yeah, I can listen. I can lay down with the best of them. I can
You
like
heard it here, ladies.
exactly. I can
My
chill on the
question about a
couch.
sound bath. My question about a sound bath is like, are you cleaner afterwards? Do you have to use soap?
No, no, no. That's amazing.
Like, what
That
is with the
here's
bath? I know it's
all
just them
right.
playing a
Here,
fucking thing and you
this is the
bathes
best.
you in
No,
sound.
no, no. This is the best. This is the best part because I'm not 100% sure that Owen knows what a sound bath is, but that's great. So the
I
sound bath
may.
is like the
I'm gonna
bowls.
add it to my practice and throw it on
They
Instagram
use
and
they
see if I
use
can get some
actually what
moms.
is crazy is they talk about it being medicine. Talk about people who are charging a lot of money for what I don't know what the hell they're doing. But sound they use these crazy ceramic bowls, I guess, or glass bowls, and like they make
Yeah.
these like crazy sounds, and you just lie there and you just listen. That's what it is.
We're-
It's no different than listening to music. That's really what it is,
Dude,
except it's listening to some kind of transformative bowls. Now,
mark
clean,
this
you're not
mark this
getting any
down in
water
a
on you.
year and a half. Mark
You're-
this down in a year and a half, and we're all going to be selling peptides because Joe Rogan said so. So,
yeah, yeah. Well,
all
peptides are different. Someone
right.
asked me about peptides today. Peptides are different. At least you're putting
Well,
something in
they
you. You know,
yeah, they are
like
they are illegal in most sports, so that usually means they're good for 45-year-olds who have a midlife crisis.
for
Yeah.
sure, for sure. I totally agree. So,
God, we had a nice episode before this, and then just went off the
listen,
rails.
I hope those people hung in for the tangent to see the inner
I was gonna
workings of some
say
of these.
we're
That's
gonna
great.
get like two or three people just being like,
Like
"Seriously, you
what?
idiots?"
Yeah, I'm down.
Yeah.
I'm down with it. I like it.
All
Cool.
right, we're closing out. We're
Awesome.
done.
All right.
Physio-growth.com. Do
See
it.
ya.